Part 34. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 331. When Suwon returned to the mansion, Gu Beizu was sitting in the pavilion sewing clothes. Gu Qingsong stood in the house, watching Gu Beizu quietly through a small window. In these days, although Gu Beizu didn't call her daddy, it could be seen that she was slowly opening her heart and learning to accept Gu Qingsong. Gu's mother reconciled with herself and was able to live in peace with Gu Qingsong. Gu Qingsong also saw things a little further, knowing that he could use the injury to make Gu's mother relent, but he felt that he owed his mother and son a lot, and he couldn't do such a despicable thing, and it was difficult to ask Gu's mother for reconciliation. The corners of Suwon's mouth raised slightly, feeling relaxed as if the dust had settled. Everything is going in the right direction. Madam, the eldest princess has handed over an invitation. Please come over if you have time today. Mrs. who handed the invitation to Suwon. Suwon thought for a while, and as she had nothing to do now, she went to the princess's mansion again. The eldest princess entertained Suwon at the waterside pavilion, and all the maids retreated, leaving them alone. The eldest princess made tea herself and poured it for Suwon. Wan, I have caused you trouble by inviting you to my house today. No, I just have nothing to do today. It's worth it to drink the tea you brewed by yourself. Suwon held the teacup, the golden tea soup was lingering with a faint fragrance, and she took a shallow sip, leaving a fragrance on her lips and teeth. You don't have to flatter me. If you want to drink the tea I made, you can come to the eldest princess's mansion at any time. The eldest princess's smile faded away after a while, and there was a trace of sadness in her eyebrows. Jingyun is now the new emperor. Mr. Zhang and Tingyuan taught him that Xiehui was not needed and he wanted to leave the capital to travel. Suwon frowned. Although Xiehui was in the world of mortals, he was no different from a monk with a pure heart. I showed him several girls from aristocratic families, but he didn't come forward. If this continues, I think he will become a monk sooner or later. Even if he marries a girl from aristocratic families, he won't be able to keep him. The eldest princess really had no choice, so she asked Suwon helped. The Cao family was ransacked and exiled, and you rescued Mrs. Cao and Cao Wanking? Cao Wanking's engagement with the Genkuo Duke's mansion was terminated, and she will not live in the capital in the future. You let Cao Wanking stay with Xiehui. Suwon frowned, not expecting the eldest princess to have this idea. Other girls from aristocratic families, even if they are engaged, may not be able to follow Xiehui through the world. An ordinary girl from a poor family might not be able to catch the eyes of the eldest princess. Cao Wanking is different. Before her house was confiscated, she was also a noble girl. Now she has fallen into poverty, but she has not lost her primary school education and can wander around with Xiehui. She is the most suitable candidate. Suwon disagreed. Miss Cao is not young. Although she is in a downturn now, her family is still there. If she returns to Jinzhou to join her grandfather's family, she can also find a good husband. It is insulting to her to follow Mr. Xie without any name or status. If the two of them can't get married, how can she talk about the marriage? I can accept her as my adopted daughter. The eldest princess has already thought of her plan. If the two of us can't make it, I will choose a good marriage for her, and we can get married in the eldest princess's palace with glory. Suwon's heart moved. Although Cao Wanking had the support of her maternal ancestors, there would inevitably be secret fights among high-ranking families. If the eldest princess supported her, it would not be a good thing for Cao Wanking. I can't agree for her. I have to ask her for her own opinion. Suwon saw the joy in the eldest princess's eyes and couldn't help pouring cold water on her. The young lady's life is something that cannot be wasted. If she agrees, she can 1 year. Of course, it's not just Mr. Xie who is in love, Miss Cao also has feelings for Mr. Xie. If she doesn't want to marry, you can't force her. No problem, the eldest princess received Suwon's support and felt much more relaxed. She quickly asked her about her affairs. I heard from the Queen Mother that you are planning to build a Bashan hall and want to grow your own medicinal materials. Isn't that weird? Lack of land? I can grow medicinal materials for you on all the land in my name without paying rent. Suwon didn't expect such a big surprise to hit her head. I bought it. Do you have so much money to buy it? The eldest princess has a lot of mountainous land in her hands, and some of it is worth every inch of land. Even if you have money, you can't buy it? I know your concerns. I am worried that my descendants will have trouble with you in the future dispute. Let's do this. I'll give you the land to plant, and you'll give me 10% of the profits from the mountain. We sign a contract, and we won't take back the land, and it will be terminated by your side. The eldest princess asked the female officer to bring a box, opened it and pushed it in front of Suwon. Suwon's eyes lit up when she saw the land deed inside. She thought about it in her mind and realized that the 10% decision would put the eldest princess at a bit of a disadvantage. I'll give you 20%. If you agree, sign the contract immediately. Without saying a word, the eldest princess asked the female officer to bring pen, ink, paper, and inkstone. The two of them deliberated, drafted the contract, and signed and fingerprinted it. Suwon put the contract into her arms and said with a smile, "If you know who else is selling land, you can tell me. I'll help you keep an eye on it." Suwon thanked the eldest princess graciously and returned home with a full harvest. Coincidentally, Cao Wanking planned to leave Beijing with her mother tomorrow and came to Gu Mansion to say goodbye to Suwon. Just in time to save Suwon from looking for her, he quickly invited people to the main courtyard and said straight to the point, "Miss Cao, I just went to the eldest princess's mansion. The eldest princess has a son, Xiaowei, have you heard about it?" Cao Wanking nodded slightly, "I've heard of it, and I know a little bit about it. Young Master Xie wants to travel away from the capital, and the eldest princess is worried about his lifelong affairs. She has chosen you as his daughter-in-law. She wants you to stay with Mr. Xie and cultivate a relationship between the two of you. If you two fall in love with each other, we will become husband and wife. If we don't have a good impression of each other, the eldest princess will accept you as her adopted daughter and choose a marriage according to your wishes. We will marry in the grand honors of the eldest princess's palace for 1 year," Suwon said with a serious look. "You should think about it carefully." Cao Wanking was stunned. If she were still the governor's daughter, she would definitely refuse without hesitation. Now, even though he has a family background and the support of his grandfather, it is not his family after all. The family committed another crime, and her marriage was rejected, making it difficult to find another good marriage. My maternal grandfather's family not only has 1 daughter, but also 3 uncles and 2 aunts, as well as many cousins. When something happened to the Cao family, my grandfather and uncles wrote letters. My grandfather wanted the mother and daughter to return. The uncles were trying to find out about the Cao family's background, but all of them were copied. If I go back like this, I'm afraid life won't be easy. Now there is another way to choose, which is to give 1 year of your life to get the support of the eldest princess. Not only her mother's ancestral home, but even if she and Xiaowei cannot get married, she will still have some advantages when she marries in her husband's home. Status. Cao Wanking did not refuse. "I can agree, provided that the eldest princess now recognizes me as her adopted daughter. The eldest princess arranges for someone to send my mother back to Jinzhou, leaving 2 nuns to take care of her. In this way, people from my maternal grandfather's family would not dare to bully my mother and would look down upon her. Okay, I'll send someone to deliver a message to the eldest princess." Suwon assigned Qing Yuan. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 332. Qing Yuan sent a message to the eldest princess. The eldest princess came to the Gu mansion in person. She couldn't hold back her excitement and negotiated with her. Wan, you have solved the chess game, and we agree to you a condition. If I tell Siebwe clearly, Cao Wanking I found a wife for him and asked him to develop a relationship together, but I'm afraid he won't agree. Seeing the eldest princess looking at her expectantly, Suwan couldn't help but laugh and said, I know what to do. I will personally take Miss Cao to the eldest princess's mansion tomorrow and use this condition to ask Mr. Xie to help me take care of her for a year. That condition still stands, I will honor it to you. The eldest princess handed a box to Suwan. This is the mountain land I bought as a thank you gift. Suwan was not polite to the eldest princess and took the box away. The eldest princess said kindly, if this thing comes to pass, you will be indispensable for Wan. When the time comes, ask this young couple to give you a generous thank you gift. Suwan frowned and said, then I wish you all the best in advance. The eldest princess seemed to have settled her worries, her smile never fell, and she returned home happily. Suwan opened the box and found 10 land deeds inside. She calculated the value inside. When she got to the desk, she took out her account book and wrote it down. When Siebwe got married, she would have to pay back double the amount. She sent an invitation card to Siebwe and Cao Wanking respectively, and asked Moun to make the trip to Penglay Pavilion of Ziwixiang building tomorrow. At noon on the second day, Suwan took Chiwu and Qingyuan to Ziwixiang Tower. The shopkeeper saw Suwan's respectful expression and said, my boss, the guests from Penglay Pavilion have arrived. Suwan raised her eyebrows, how many are here? You too. The shopkeeper was about to send her up. Now is the busiest time for the restaurant. You are busy here, so there is no need to entertain me. Suwan glanced at the restaurant full of guests and walked up to the Penglay Pavilion on the 3rd floor. Knock knock. Suwan raised her hand to knock on the door, then pushed it open the next moment. Siebwe and Cao Wanking sat face to face, a large round table separated them. The atmosphere in the room was very quiet, their eyes only focused on the teacup in front of them. Hearing the sound at the door, the two of them looked up and saw that Suwan's eyes were filled with emotion. Wan. Cousin. The two people said in unison. Suwan looked at Siebwe in surprise. Did he know her identity? Have you been waiting for a long time? Suwan's eyes were full of smiles. There were several dishes of snacks on the table. She pushed the ordering tube to Cao Wanking. Are you hungry? Order first, and we will chat while eating. Cao Wanking said reservedly, Wan, please have some. She pushed the lottery tube to Suwan and said with a slight smile, you are the owner of this restaurant, you know which dishes taste good. Siebwe took a sip of tea and agreed with Cao Wanking's decision. Guess the purpose of Suwan inviting them over. Suwan was not polite and ordered a few signature dishes. After the waiter left, Siebwe asked, do you have something to ask for when you invite me here today? I can't hide anything from you. Suwan glanced at Cao Wanking, saw her lowering her head nervously, and thanked her. Qing thank you for your help, letting your grandfather help regain Jinzhou's military, political, and financial power. Cao Wanking was slightly startled, pursed her lips and said, this is what it should be. No matter what, I owe you a favor. Cao Wanking understood Suwan's intention, wrung her fingers and said softly, we are good friends. Yes, we are friends. I investigated your maternal grandfather's family and found out that the brothers inside the house are fighting against each other and are not as harmonious as they appear on the surface. I'm afraid life will be difficult for you and your mother when you return to Jinzhou. Suwan sighed softly and turned to the side in silence. Siebwe said softly, cousin, I heard that you are leaving Beijing to travel around the world. Siebwe was thinking about the conversation between Suwan and Cao Wanking, and when he saw that the topic was drawn to him, he couldn't help but have a guess. Could it be that Suwan wanted him to support Cao Wanking, personally escort their mother and daughter back to Jinzhou, and host a special banquet for them? You said it. Siebwe did not deny it. The CAO family is now a criminal. It's not appropriate for Qing'er to stay in the capital. It's not easy for them, orphans and widowers, to go to their grandfather. You owed me a condition, and I wanted to entrust Qing'er to your care. Clang dash. As soon as Suwan finished speaking, Siebwe lost his grip on the tea lid and hit it on the cup, causing the tea to pour out. Siebwe quickly put down the cup and shook the water on his hand. Are you burned? Suwan handed the handkerchief to Siebwe. Wipe it clean and see if there are any blisters. Siebwe took the handkerchief and wiped it clean. There was only a little redness on the back of his hand. It's okay, the tea is cold. He coughed lightly and politely declined. Being alone and alone will hinder Miss Cao's good reputation. Suwan interrupted him. Cousin, please listen to what I have to say. I am not just asking you to take care of me. I have something to do with Qing'er, and I don't worry about her going out alone. You also know that I want to. It is not enough to open up wasteland and plant medicinal materials in the mountains around the capital. I want to buy properties all over the Zhou dynasty. The new emperor has just ascended the throne. Huizi has not been home for half a month. I have to take care of my family. Cannot leave Beijing for on-site inspection. To be honest, half of the CAO family's property is in my hands, and a large amount of money is flowing away. I can only trust Qing'er and entrust her to help me buy mountainous land in various places. This is not just because you want to travel around the world, you just take her with you. Please take care of me on the way. This statement is sound and well-founded. Siebwe frowned slightly. Cao Wangking responded quickly and said at the right time, Master Xie, whenever you go to a place and you are busy with your business, I will buy my mountain land. The two of us can agree to meet at a time when we leave, and then go to the next place together. Nothing will delay you. Siebwe raised his thin eyelids and glanced at Cao Wangking. She was a beautiful, quiet, and graceful woman. He didn't like trouble, but he owed Suwan a condition and had to pay it back. If it's inconvenient for you, forget it. I'll find someone else, or put the plan on hold for now. Suwan looked like she didn't want Siebwe to be in trouble. Siebwe's light brown eyes were as clear as glass. He stared at Suwan for a while, lowered his dark and thick eyelashes. It's not inconvenient. Forget it. Cao Wangking looks very quiet and doesn't look like she would cause trouble. Suwan and Cao Wangking looked at each other, and she said in surprise, You agreed. Cousin, you are so kind. It's settled. She poured tea for Siebwe diligently. When are you leaving? I can do it easily. A preparation. Siebwe. He said, leave tomorrow. Suwan looked at Cao Wangking. Cao Wangking, then I will wait for Mr. Xie at the city gate tomorrow. After the matter was finalized, after dinner together, Siebwe took one step ahead, leaving Suwan to discuss the land purchase with Cao Wangking. It turned out that it was used as a reason to persuade Siebwe, but after thinking about it later, it turned out to be a good idea. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 333. Suwan finally made a decision and selected some capable people to leave with Cao Wangking. They surveyed and bought land together. After Cao Wangking left with Siebwe, one person was left to be in charge and organize people to plant medicinal materials in the local area. The rest continued to follow Siebwe and Cao Wangking. Go to the next place. Siebwe is a chess fanatic. If he makes friends with chess, he may stay in one place for a long time. It should be a month at least. It also takes time on the road, buying property in almost 6 places. At this time, Cao Wanking and Xia Wei have been together for more than half a year, and their relationship has become close. Even if there was no reason to buy property, he couldn't leave Cao Wanking alone. When Suwan was about to return to her hometown, she went to pick someone up. As soon as they left the private room, they met Zhao Wei and Tang Nuan, who came out of the private room opposite. "General Zhao," Miss Tang Suwan smiled and said, "What a coincidence." Tang Nuan was a little embarrassed. Princess. The Lord of Linan County and the Queen Mother are dead. She has returned to the Guangyuan Marquis mansion from the palace. Zhao Wei invited her out today to discuss the marriage. The previous marriage at home was forced by the situation. It was impossible for Tang Nuan to take advantage of someone's danger and marry Zhao Wei by mistake. Tang Nuan took the initiative and said that the marriage was irrelevant. Zhao Wei had a different idea. Although she had no choice but to do so at the time, no matter what the circumstances, since the two people admitted that they were compatible in front of the powerful circles in the capital, this marriage, not to mention the marriage, would have an impact on her reputation. After careful consideration, Zhao Wei believed that he must take responsibility to the end. Tang Nuan didn't want to marry into the Zhenqiu government. Not only would there be many rules, but she would also lose her freedom. Zhao Wei ordered a table of special dishes from Ziwixi Anglu. She was so greedy that she heard him say indifferently, "You will not be asked to set any rules when you enter the Zhenqiu palace. You will be able to eat whatever you want every day. Half a year later I will be stationed at the border. If you think I am not a good man, I will take you to the border and let you go halfway." Tang Nuan was confused. Zhao Wei added, "My second brother is a gourmet. There are more than a dozen cooks in the house, and they can cook all kinds of cuisines." Tang Nuan was moved and agreed without saying a word. Anyway, it was her who had gained the upper hand, and she was not the one who suffered. The two of them had reached an agreement and had a good meal, and Tang Nuan was in a good mood. She didn't expect to meet Suwan, which reminded her of everything that happened at the Zhenqiu palace. Her dark eyes blinked, and she pointed to the stairs. Should I leave first?" Zhao Wei nodded slightly. "You go back first, I have something to discuss with Madame Gu." Tang Nuan breathed a sigh of relief, waved to Suwan like a lucky cat, and walked away quickly. Suwan waved her hand, and within a moment, she disappeared into the stairwell, smiling dumbly, a very cute little girl. Zhao Wei said, "Are you going to take over the medicinal materials for the military camp? And establish Baishantang? If you are free, we can go in and discuss matters about medicinal materials for the military." "Yes. I originally planned to ask you again in a few days." Suwan led Zhao Wei back to Penglai Pavilion. Royal Palace, Kinzhen Hall. Jingyun was dressed in a dragon robe and a golden winged crown on his head. He was sitting cross-legged and kneeling on the tapestry. His small body was straight and he stared at the memorial in his hand with an expressionless expression. Tingyuan sat beside him, checking the memorials he approved one by one. He developed his calligraphy skills by following Mr. Zhang, and he was elegant and powerful. For the first time, he wanted to surpass the Emperor's majesty, but it was a pity that he was still young and lacked wrist strength. The contents of the memorial were against the establishment of Baishan Hall, and even more against the monopolization of medicinal materials in the palace and the army by Suwan. Jingyun reprimanded him. The corners of Tingyuan's lips raised slightly. If Jingyun didn't understand something and couldn't deal with it, he put it in the upper left corner for him to review. Others that could be dealt with were very gentle. Jingyun felt guilty and couldn't help but cast his eyes towards Tingyuan. When he saw him smiling, Jingyun threw away the memorial, put down the cinnabar pen, rubbed his sore wrist, and leaned on him to act coquettishly. "Brother, I'm going to take a break. I'm either studying or dealing with official duties every day, discussing matters with the ministers. One head is about to become two." Jingyun exaggeratedly gestured the size of his head and said with a frown, My mother and I have agreed to take the third sister into the palace tomorrow, do you agree? In the palace, you and I are monarchs and ministers. Ting Yuan closed the memorial and said casually, the emperor doesn't have enough time to sleep every day, so it doesn't matter whether she enters the palace or not. Privately, we are family, so I will call you big brother. Jingyun was too tense after entering the palace, and today he allowed himself to be a little bit abrasive with him. I have to study for 2 hours every day, and my third sister can keep me company. Brother, you will send the third sister to the palace tomorrow, and mother, I miss her. Ting Yuan didn't respond. He glanced at the sky outside and said, it's time for riding and shooting. Brother, Jing Yun looked at Ting Yuan eagerly and bargained, should I get up 2/4 of an hour every day to study books? Ting Yuan reviewed the memorial and said without raising his head, go quickly. Jing Yun left angrily, thinking, if he can't see his third sister and his mother tomorrow, he will issue an imperial edict to summon his sister and his mother into the palace, and his eldest sister-in-law will also be brought into the palace. No, no, no. The eldest brother almost always lives in the palace. Doesn't the sister-in-law's entry into the palace help the eldest brother? When his elder sister-in-law wanted to establish Beishan Tang, he would choose a place far away. The elder sister-in-law would go there in person, leaving the elder brother alone to guard the empty room. Ting Yuan didn't know what Jing Yun had in mind. After reviewing the memorial, he went back to his hometown today. In a rare moment of leisure, I sat on the carriage, leaning against the wall of the carriage tiredly, closing my eyes and relaxing. The carriage drove for a while and suddenly stopped. Emoli's voice came, Master, the mistress is at Ziwixiang Tower. Ting Yuan opened his eyes, opened the car curtains, and saw Su Wan and Zhao Wei walking out side by side, talking and laughing. Zhao Wei took down the wooden ladder and placed it, standing on one side with a gentlemanly manner. When Su got into the carriage at night, he didn't know what he thought of. He opened the curtain again to reveal a head, and said a few words to Zhao Wei, both of whom smiled happily. His eyes dimmed and he lowered the curtain, go back home. Emoli only felt that the air was a few degrees colder, and he clearly felt that his master was displeased. After glancing at his mistress, Emoli continued to drive. Su Wan noticed that someone was looking at her. She turned around and saw a familiar carriage. Her eyes lit up and she quickly said to Zhao Wei, I'm not in a hurry right now. I will officially provide you with medicinal materials in about half a year. I have something else to do, so I'll go back first. The house is over. She quickly lowered the curtain and urged, Chi Wu, hurry up and get in the car and go back home immediately. The carriage rushed back to the house and just stopped. Su Wan jumped out of the carriage and ran directly to the main courtyard. Huizi. Su Wan quickly walked into the house, and was pressed against the door panel. He kissed her passionately, not as gentle as usual, but with a fierce and crazy posture, as if he wanted to tear her apart. She held the man's neck and endured his plunder. When he lifted one of her legs and put it on his waist, she struggled. She still had something to discuss with him. Let Gu Huizi succeed. She has no intention of doing anything serious today. Xie Wei and Cao Wanking will leave Beijing tomorrow, and she hasn't chosen them yet. Wait a minute. I can't wait. You can talk about it later. No. I have a child. Gu Huizi stopped suddenly and stared at her with burning eyes. Su Wan was dumbfounded. She just blurted out of desperation. Looking at his eyes, she swallowed and felt that if she said no, she would die miserably. She braced herself, raised her hand, and pretended to feel her pulse. I didn't lie to you, I said. Well. Su Wan's eyes widened. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 334. Su Wan didn't give up. Check your pulse carefully again. Su Wan was confused. What's wrong, Gu Huizi suppressed the heat surging in his body, picked up the dumbfounded Suwan and placed her on the soft couch. I asked Mon to ask for the imperial doctor. Suwan nodded dully. Doctors can't heal themselves. Maybe she felt the wrong pulse. Mon got the order and went to Liu's house quickly. Gu Huizi looked at her dumbfounded and looked in disbelief. He had a guess in his mind and poured a glass of warm water into her hand. You were the one who made up your mind about the child. Now, are you sure you have it? Gu Huizi stared at her belly with deep eyes. Suwan held the water glass and drank 2 mouthfuls of water to calm down her shock. I have something serious to discuss with you, and I just found an excuse to stop you out of desperation. I didn't expect. Suwan dug her teacup with her fingers, her mind was in confusion, and she couldn't make up her mind. What if we really have a child? Manage. They had obviously discussed it for several years before reuniting. Careers are on the rise. Suwan felt confused and lowered her eyes. Maybe I felt the wrong pulse. It was so sudden that Suwan could not digest the sudden news for a while. Gu Huizi was indeed surprised when he heard that there was a child from the beginning. He was completely stunned, and then a hot and exciting joy surged from the bottom of his heart. Suwan's reaction was like pressing the pause button, and all the excitement and boiling blood froze. He was silent for a while, then said hoarsely, "How do you want to deal with it?" Suwan was at a loss. She thought for a moment that she really had a child. Although it was not planned, it was still a little life. It was her and Gu Huizi's child. Just thinking about it, she felt a strange feeling in her heart. Warm and swollen, filled with joy, expectation, and a little bit of apprehension and confusion. Putting down the cup in her hand, she placed her hands on her flat and soft belly. The subtle feeling came over her, and she was actually looking forward to it. She didn't want to think about anything else. She just thought that having a child would be great, right? Gu Huizi looked at her confused, frowned, troubled, and happy. He raised his hand and touched her head. Don't be nervous, maybe not. When Suwan thought about this possibility, she actually felt a little disappointed. My medical skills shouldn't be so bad, right? Suwan hugged Gu Huizi's waist and leaned softly against him. It was so unexpected just now, and I was so confused, because its arrival broke our plan. But when you asked me how to deal with it later, I thought about it seriously and felt that it was not unacceptable, and I was even looking forward to it. Gu Huizi felt soft in his heart. I'm looking forward to it too, but Suwan's white face was still a little childish, as long as it doesn't hurt your body. Suwan tightened her arms and raised the corners of her mouth slightly, feeling that this was good. Jingyun has entered the palace now. He has always wanted Beizo to be his companion. Since we have a child, my mother will focus more on the child, which will give her more comfort. Suwan was about to feel her pulse again, but there was always an unreal feeling. At this time, Dr. Lu came. "Princess, what's wrong with you?" Dr. Lu took out the pulse pillow. Suwan let go of Gu Huizi and put her hand on the pulse pillow. "Please give me a safe pulse." Dr. Lu saw that her cheeks were rosy, her eyes were smiling, and she was in a good mood, not like she was ill. Suddenly, an idea came to me. He took his pulse seriously, with a slight smile on his face. "Congratulations to the princess and Mr. Gu, there is a new baby in the house." Suwan breathed a long sigh of relief, raised her eyebrows, and said to Gu Huizi with a bright smile, "I told you. My medical skills are not bad." Gu Huizi also smiled, but did not expose her. "Yes, Madame Gu's medical skills are superb." Dr. Lu smiled and said, "However, the princess's body was damaged before and her qi and blood are deficient. She needs to be replenished." Suwan's smile faltered, knowing in her heart that it was the sequelae of being poisoned by a poisonous poison. She was seriously ill again and her body had not fully recovered. "Can you please give me a prescription for tonic?" Suwon touched Dr. Liu's eyes and said sheepishly, when it comes to my own situation, I will inevitably be biased. I am afraid of harming the child, so I will have concerns about the medication and dosage. But cannot achieve the healing effect. Dr. Liu teased her kindly, the princess has superb medical skills, but I forgot that you are also a common person. He picked up a pen and wrote out a prescription. He handed it to Suwon and said, take a look. If you think there is something wrong, you can change it. Suwon took a look and said, the prescription you prescribed is very good. There is no need to change it. Dr. Liu gave a few words of advice, then picked up the medicine box and left. Gu Huizi sent him out personally. Suwon touched her belly, still a little surprised. 2/4 of an hour later, Gu Huizi came back in a hurry. Where have you been? It's been so long since you came back. Suwon moved into the soft couch to make room for him. Gu Huizi sat on the soft couch, looking at her gentle eyebrows. His heart became particularly calm. I asked Dr. Liu some things. Suwon, ask me, no one knows better than me. Gu Huizi smiled without saying a word, his eyes as gentle as water. Suwon touched his eyes, raised her head and kissed him on the lips. Mr. Gu, congratulations on becoming a father. Gu Huizi's Adam's apple rolled and he hugged her waist. Ms. Gu, congratulations on becoming a mother. The two men looked at each other and smiled. Suwon leaned in his arms. I will entrust Miss Cao to Mr. Siet. Miss Cao will help me buy land. I have to choose a few people to give her. What suggestions do you have? Gu Huizi laughed, knowing that she was planning on him, and she had few people available. You can rest peacefully and I'll find someone for you. Gu Huizi raised his eyebrows and said, why did you interrupt me for this matter before? Then he thought of Suwon's condition and felt a little lucky. When will you need someone? I want it early tomorrow morning. Suwon pushed Gu Huizi away and urged, hurry up and go now. Gu Huizi. I want someone who knows how to grow medicinal materials and has management capabilities. Ms. Although time is tight and it's a bit difficult to find someone like this, I believe you can do it. Suwon hugged his neck, kissed him on the cheek, and blew a rainbow fart. In my heart, you everything is possible, and the baby thinks so too. Gu Huizi found it helpful unexpectedly and pinched her face. Don't run around. If you have something to do, ask the people around you to do it. I'll be right back. He had several candidates in mind, and before leaving, he arranged for someone to tell Gu's mother about Suwon's pregnancy. After Gu's mother got the news, she went to the main courtyard excitedly and watched Suwon coming from a distance. She quickly went up to Suwon and supported her. Wan, it's so late, where are you going? The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 335. I'm going to show Dad the wound. Gu's mother looked so nervous that Suwon couldn't help laughing. Mom, don't worry too much, I just have a child and I don't jump around, so nothing will happen. Gu's mother nodded, that's right. Proper walking is good for your health. Although she said this, she did not let go of her hand and carefully supported Suwon, walking slower than usual. You follow, I am different. Huizi said that you are not in good health and must be taken care of carefully. Suwon was helpless. I know what's going on. Why don't you bring up a lantern? It's already dark today, and there are uneven roads on this road. Just leave Lao Gu alone and ask the doctor to treat him. Mother Gu touched Suwon's cold hand, and her face was thin. He picked up the bones and said distressedly, I raised a little bit of meat, but I was so tired that I lost it. Now there is a little one in my belly. Don't worry about the things in your hands. Take good care of your body and don't be hollowed out by the child. The root of the disease has fallen. As she spoke, she became increasingly worried. Having a child at this time would be extremely harmful to Suwon's body. If she didn't want the child, it would also harm Suwon's body. From now on, Mother will cook 3 meals a day for you. Gu's mother decided to cook her food in different ways every day. Since she doesn't have a big appetite, she would cook 4 or 5 meals a day, with smaller portions. Whatever you want to eat, just say it. Don't think it's a trouble. Nothing is more important than your body. Mom, I understand. Suwon felt warm in her heart. Seeing her obedient face, Gu's mother felt so soft in her heart. She said pitifully, I heard that my in-laws are back, but do I need someone to tell them the news? As for others, after 3 months, the pregnancy will be stable. Then spread the good news. Okay, Suwon thought for a moment and said, I'll tell them tomorrow. The 2 people came to the east wing. When Gu Qingsong heard the news, he looked at Suwon with gentle eyes. The wound has healed and there is no other discomfort. He should be fine. He unbuttoned his clothes, revealing the pink scar. Suwon checked him carefully and took his pulse again. It was indeed okay. Gu Qingsong arranged his clothes, looked at Gu's mother aside, rubbed the sachet on his waist, and whispered, my injury has been completely healed, and I am going to return to Xinghua village tomorrow. Mother Gu was stunned and nodded, that's fine. I plan to go back to the old house and repair it. Gu Qingsong's chest felt tight and his eyes were heavy as he said, where is Jingzi? I will move him back. Jingzi is the name of the child who died in infancy. Gu's mother felt a pain in her heart and her throat was choked as she said, I planted 2 roses on the side of Baicha mountain halfway up the mountain. If you can find them, move on. If you can't find them, we'll talk about it later. Gu Qingsong's eyes turned red and he nodded heavily. Early the next morning, Moun took the 6 people selected by Gu Huizi to meet Cao Wonking at the gate of the city. Gu Huizi brought the news of Suwon's pregnancy to the regent's palace, and set off from the regent's palace to the palace for the morning court. Gu Qingsong left the capital alone when the sky was dark. No one was told. Gu's mother stood under the corner door and watched him leave. It wasn't until his figure melted into the morning mist and disappeared that he wiped the corners of his eyes and went to the kitchen to make breakfast for Suwon. After Suwon, Gu's mother, and Gu Beizu finished breakfast, they went into the palace. The 3 people were taken to Xi'an Palace by the female officer. The new emperor ascended the throne, and the queen became the queen mother and moved to Xi'an Palace. The Empress Dowager was deposed and imprisoned in the cold palace. Suwon stood in the middle, while Gu's mother and Gu Beizu stood on the left and right respectively. Neither of them had ever entered the palace, let alone seen such a scene. What's more, seeing the most noble woman in the world, their hearts were beating like drums. He stared nervously at his feet, not daring to look around, and followed Suwon's actions for fear of making a mistake and making a joke. Don't be nervous, the queen mother is easy to talk to. Suwon held the 2 of them and whispered, Mom, you are kind to the queen mother, and you are her honored guest. Don't panic. Mother Gu was even more panicked and didn't dare to express her anger. Gu Beizu was a little better and secretly looked at the queen mother on the high seat with her peripheral vision. She was touched by the gentle and kind look of the queen mother with a smile on her face, and suddenly she was not nervous at all. The queen mother, Jin and the 3 people greeted her. Get up quickly. The queen mother asked someone to give her a seat, looked at Mother Gu, and said softly, I have wanted to see you for a long time, and thank you in person for teaching Jingyun so well. Something happened in the palace. Has been delayed to this day. No. It doesn't matter. The woman raised Jingyun as her own child because he is very smart and sensible. You don't have to be so polite. If it hadn't been for Jingyun, I might not have been able to take care of him well. Gu's mother tightened her hands. He smiled unnaturally at the corner of his clothes and said, this child is a blessed person. No matter where he is or what status he has, you are also his mother. The queen mother only felt that Gu's mother was simple. No matter how bad her reputation was, she did have a motherly heart towards her children. The emperor said that he would grant you the title of for Mrs. Jo, I would like to express my gratitude for your kindness in raising him and express your filial piety. Gu's mother's eyes turned red. I am just a peasant woman, illiterate, and cannot afford a title like Mrs. Joguo. As long as they are good, I will go back to Xinghua village after Beizu gets married. These titles mean a lot to me, it's all false. The queen mother was startled and wanted to persuade her again. Gu's mother, Jingyun, wants his sister to come to the palace to keep him company. Just help me take care of the orb. The queen mother's heart moved. Okay, the AI family will recognize her as their adopted daughter. Gu's mother knew that even without this promise, the queen mother would help her protect the orb in gratitude for her kindness in raising Jingyundi. Good child, come to me. The queen mother looked at Gu Beizu. The little girl was wearing a pink skirt, her black hair was tied into two pigtails, her eyes were as bright as stars in the clear sky on a summer night, and her fair skin was translucent. Light pink, rosy lips pursed into a slight smile, the pear dimples on both sides of the cheeks looming, sweet and smart. She held Gu Beizu's hand lovingly and said softly, "Will you live in the palace next to me from now on?" Gu Beizu's long eyelashes trembled, and she looked at Suwan and Gu's mother uneasily. Seeing them nodding slightly, with encouragement in their eyes, she whispered, "I listen to my second brother." The queen mother was stunned for a moment, and then she smiled even more happily, "Yes, listen to Jingyun." "Why do you listen to me?" Jingyun arrived before the others arrived. In an instant, a small figure stepped into the hall. When he saw the people in the hall, he said in surprise, "Mother. Sister-in-law. Third sister. You are here." The queen mother looked over. Ahem. Jingyun suppressed the wild horse racing in his heart, walked over with a straight face, and couldn't suppress the joy in his voice. "What were you talking about just now?" Seeing the expectation in his eyes, the queen mother laughed and said, "The queen mother recognizes Beizu as her adopted daughter and will stay with me from now on. What do you think? The author has something to say." Ouch, babies, see you tomorrow, good night, okay. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 336. Mother, third sister is my younger sister. If you accept her as your adopted daughter, should I call her third sister or adopted sister? Jingyun's eyebrows were twisted into knots and he waved his hand. No, adopted sister. No, third sister is close. The queen mother was surprised. Jingyun's attitude was firm. Everyone knows that I was raised by my mother. No one will think it is against the rules if my third sister stays with us. Even if it is against the rules, I have the final say this week. I say it is in line with the rules, it's just in compliance with the rules. If he can't make the final decision on such a trivial matter, what's the point of being such a bad emperor? The queen mother smiled. Okay, it's your sister. She knew Tingyuan's true identity. With Jingyuan and Tingyuan protecting her, no one dared to criticize Gu Beizu. Mother, I don't have much time. I want my third sister to live in my side palace, so that the two of us can study and study together. When I have to go to court and deal with official duties, can she come to your place to learn female beauty? Is that okay? Jingyun blinked and wanted to turn the person back. This is unreasonable. Under normal circumstances, the queen mother would refuse, leaving no room for negotiation. But Jingyun is different. He didn't grow up in a palace. He has just come to a strange environment to take a leading role. He is afraid that he is scared and lonely inside. Can having a familiar person by his side bring him some comfort? Okay. The queen mother knows that you are measured. The queen mother gave her trust. Jingyun was so happy that he almost went crazy. He was like a wild horse running wildly around the palace 3 times. "Thank you, Queen Mother." Jingyun bowed and saluted in a decent manner. The Queen Mother was helpless and said to Mother Gu, "Jingyun has changed his name. The name recorded in the royal jade certificate is Jishuo, and the small print is Jingyun." Mother Gu smiled, "It's a very good name." She looked at Jingyun, who was wearing a dragon robe and a golden-winged benevolent crown. He had a small face and an inexplicable soft and cute feeling. She felt hot in her heart and wanted to hug this child, but she knew that there was a difference in status, so she restrained herself. "Come down." Gu's mother asked, "You just came back from the morning session?" Jingyun took the initiative to hug Mother Gu, with admiration in her clear eyes. "Mom, I haven't seen you for a long time and I miss you so much." Mother Gu's eyes filled with tears. "Mom, I miss you too. Is it okay for Mom to come to the palace every month to see me and my third sister?" "Okay, Mom will come see you when she has time." Jingyun was so happy that he wanted to take Gumyu to see everything he had in the palace. He suppressed it and only took Gumyu and Suwon to talk about what he had seen. "Sister-in-law, there is a courtier who opposes the construction of Bashan Hall and does not allow you to monopolize the supply of medicinal materials to the palace and military camps. He thinks I am stupid and does not know that the medicinal materials are supplied by his relatives." Jingyun snorted, "I will give the order when the time comes. Let him personally supervise the construction of Bashan Hall. Make him mad." Suwon thought he was so cute and couldn't help pinching his little face. "Okay, I just can't supervise the work, so let him do it. If you catch his pigtails, he will be dismissed from his job." Jingyun happily agreed. Gu Beizu stood next to the Queen Mother and saw the smile on the second brother's fair and tender face. He glanced at the Queen Mother cautiously and saw the warm light in her eyes. Gu Beizu breathed a sigh of relief and calmed down a little from the uneasiness in his heart. "Third sister, don't be afraid. From now on, the two of us will live together as before. If anything happens, I will make the decision for you." Jingyun touched Gu Beizu's head. Gu Beizu's eyes turned into crescent moons when she smiled, and a spiritual aura overflowed. "You can't bully me. I am an adult now, so I will not bully you childishly." Jingyun stretched out his hand. "I can bully you." Gu Beizu glared at him and slapped his hand. Jingyun quickly dodged and reached out to pull her braid. "Gu Jingyun!" Gu Beizu was furious and ran after him. Jingyun laughed and ran away. The Queen Mother, Mother Gu, and Suwon couldn't help laughing as they watched the two people laughing and joking. "Queen Mother, I have never seen Jingyun so happy. It might be a good decision for Gu Beizu to enter the palace." Suwon and Gu's mother had lunch together in the palace and returned home in the afternoon. Moun reported back, "Mother, 6 people were sent to Miss Cao. They have already left the capital." "Okay, I'll leave it to you to contact them about purchasing real estate in the future." Suwon led Moun back to the study and explained, "I'll draw up a document for you, with various precautions in it. And you ask them to give you feedback on the geology and climate of each place and what kind of medicinal materials are suitable for planting, so that I can make a plan for you in the first 3 months, and then I will go to the field to investigate." "Mother, your body. It doesn't matter, I will pay more attention to myself. If you feel uncomfortable, you have to run away. I can only teach you how to identify it. Or pay more to hire someone who can grow medicinal materials." Suwon has a plan for her career, and if it's already on the agenda, you can't put it on hold just because you're pregnant. Moun remained silent and told Gu Huizi about Suwon's plan. Gu Huizi had no objection. Suwon's first 3 months were during his busy period, and he rarely had time to take care of Suwon at home. Fortunately, the child was very well behaved and didn't make much fuss. Not only did Suwon not have any pregnancy symptoms, but on the contrary, "My appetite is still very good, I have gained some meat on my body, and I can see that my complexion is getting better." When Suwon was going to Beijing for inspection, Gu Huizi tried his best to squeeze out time and accompany her to leave Beijing. Because of concerns about her health, Su Wan spent nearly a year arranging the 6 places where Cao Wanking purchased her property, and fully planted the medicinal materials, which were growing extremely well. 2 pilot Bashan halls were also built. A group of imperial doctors such as Su Wan and Lu Yuanqi selected medical envoys. There were 4 medical envoys in each Bashan hall. The medicinal materials were supplied for 1 month according to the medicine list provided by the medical envoys. Batch. Su Wan leaned on the soft couch with her round belly, a big pillow stuffed behind her waist, and in her hand she held the bill submitted by Bashan Hall and the simple report she made. Chi Min put the pineapple cut into pieces on the small table, poured honey on it, and fed a piece to Su Wan's mouth with a bamboo skewer. This is sent by someone from Jingyun. There are not many in total, half of it all given to you. Su Wan took a bite, and the juice flowed out, sour and sweet. She liked to eat it very much. You just can't eat too much, it's easy to get angry. I just want to try it, and you can share the rest. Your father and mother-in-law and I ate it, and our teeth were sore. Chi Min was quite disgusted. I think it's delicious. Su Wan forked a piece and stuffed it into her mouth. She was wearing a thin spring shirt, and her stomach was kicked around by something. She touched her belly and said, "Don't be naughty, I'll hurt your mother." Chi Min saw a small bump bulging in her belly, as if she had been stabbed by a fist. There was a smile in her eyes. You are about to give birth. Don't worry about Bashan Tang's affairs for now. Leave it to the people below, or give it to Huaiji. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 337. Bashan Tang has only been in operation for 3 months now, and it has already achieved initial results, curing thousands of patients. At the beginning, a few people pretended to be poor people to treat diseases. After local officials found out, they will give them certificates of villagers. The position of the chief was demolished, and those people were not only given a medical fee, but also worked hard for half a month. This was a warning to the monkeys, and nothing like this happened in the next 2 months. Su Wan put the account book aside and rubbed his belly. There are only 2 Bashan halls now. The profits in the army and the palace are more than enough. But the Zhou dynasty has a vast territory. If Bashan halls were established in every prefecture and county, I'm afraid it's not enough on my own. She wants to use modern charity funds to call on the rich to invest money in charity, specifically to provide medical treatment for the poor people in Bashan Hall, and some of it will be used to establish private schools so that poor children can have books to study. If the country is strong, the people will be strong. If the country is rich, the people will be rich, and if the people are strong, the country will be rich. After hearing Su Wan's plan, Chi Min agreed, this is a good idea and very feasible. Su Wan touched her chin and thought, rich people will not do charity in vain. We need to discuss it with the emperor. If we do charity, we can deduct part of the tax and gain a good reputation. I am afraid it can attract a lot of people. Chi Min, you discuss it with Huaiji first. Huaiji is also troubled. The first assistant is probably old. He stayed in bed last winter and never got better. He plans to retire and return to his hometown, and he wants to recommend Huizi to be the first assistant. Firstly, he is young, and secondly, he is not from a serious imperial examination background. Was criticized by political opponents. He has no obsession with this. The Minister of Civil Affairs is about to step down, and he is bound to win this position. He has the ability, but it is not the weakness of being a jinchi, which makes people disagree these days. They all went out to socialize and came back very late. I stayed in the palace the day before yesterday to retake the exam, and today I am taking the exam in the palace, so I just gave up the entertainment. How could Su Wan let her trivial matters bother him? Didn't he take the Enk exam? He passed the Huiwen exam, and today he takes the palace exam. If he is named on the gold list and his identity is revealed, why would it be their turn to criticize him for not being a Jinchi? Chi Min disagreed very much. If he gets the top prize, he will be the top scholar. Winning 3 UN in a row is a slap in the face. Suwon smiled, thankful that Gu Huizi had the foresight to still participate in the imperial examination even though he held an important position in another identity. Wouldn't this come in handy? Just wait. Today is the first day of March. The day after the palace examination, the top 10 new scholars will be summoned. The results will be released 4 days later. Suwon held her belly in both hands, her brows knitted with worry. I calculated, I will be pregnant by the end of May. This little thing should be out on the 4th day of March. Chi Min glanced at Suwon worriedly. She was well raised by her mother. She had a round face. Although her limbs were slender, they had gained weight and looked plump. She said worriedly, it won't be early, right? Maybe not. Suwon couldn't help but feel nervous. The baby had already been born. I'll walk around more in the next few days, and then the delivery will be smoother. Okay. Chi Min pushed the plate towards her. Eat quickly. Suwon took the plate, one bite at a time, and finished it quickly. Gu's mother came in with a smile and said, Wan Wan, your father has sent spring bamboo shoots, bracken, mushrooms, bacon and other mountain products from Xinghua village. What do you want to eat tonight? Make a stir-fried spring bamboo shoots with bacon and lamb tripe. Chicken stewed with mushrooms. He also sent 20 silky chickens for you to eat during your confinement. Suwon's mouth was full of saliva and her eyes were shining as she said, the chicken needs to be stewed until it falls off the bones. Okay, Gu's mother said to Chi Min, will my mother-in-law stay for dinner? Not today, I'll go back later. Okay, I'll get some mountain products for you to take back to eat. Gu's mother came and went in a hurry. During dinner in the evening, Suwon looked at the golden and translucent chicken soup in the bowl, which was fragrant. She drank 2 bowls of soup in a row, a plate of spring bamboo shoots and fried bacon, and then 2 bowls of rice, which made her unable to sit down. Wan Wan, in addition to the silky chickens, there are also 23 yellow chickens. They laid a lot of eggs along the way. Will I steam you 2 poached eggs with red dates later? Gu's mother saw that Suwon had a good appetite and was full of energy. Suwon waved her hands repeatedly, no, I'm full. If I eat any more, I won't be able to sleep at night. How many times will mom help you walk around to get some food? Good. Suwon walked around the wall twice until her ribs felt faint pain. Then she went back to her room to rest for a while, took a shower and lay on the bed. The door to the house opens and closes. Suwon looked up and saw Gu Huizi coming in his underwear with wet hair. Did you take a shower next door? Suwon sat up and prepared to get out of bed. Gu Huizi held her shoulders and gently laid her down on the bed. I will do it myself, and you can sleep well. Have you just finished the exam and left the palace? Didn't you finish the exam at Yushi? It's the end of sushi now. Suwon hugged his neck and sniffed him. Have you been drinking? After the exam, I was dragged by my classmates to drink 2 drinks. Gu Huizi said with a smile in his eyes. I washed it. Is it still smelly? It's very light and smells good. Suwon buried her face in his neck, took a deep sniff, and licked her lips. I want to drink it too. I'll give you a drink or 2, Izuko. I still have to breastfeed. Then wean yourself off and drink again. I'll drink for you. Disgusting, Suwon kicked him. Gu Huizi held her feet and stuffed them into the quilt. Don't catch the cold. If you really want to drink, please ask a wet nurse. I have to feed myself. Suwon interrupted him and said pitifully, you drink it for me, I'll just smell it. Gu Huizi's eyes darkened, he raised her chin, lowered his head to kiss her, took her lips in his mouth and licked her tenderly, bit by bit, invading her lips and teeth, and the breaths of the 2 people intertwined. His deep eyes were filled with passion, and he watched her slowly sink. His fair and tender cheeks were flushed, and his eyes were filled with water. His breathing was ragged, and he held her tightly with his arms, beside her neck. Slowly, "Did you taste it?" Suwon was stunned and didn't react. Instead, she tasted his taste on her lips and teeth. There was also a faint mellow aroma of wine, and her cheeks turned red. She reached out and pinched his waist. "Sleep, you will enter the palace tomorrow morning." Gu Huizi chuckled, "Only the first 10 will enter the palace. My husband-in-law is so good, how could he not be in the top 10? Suwon widened her eyes in disbelief. Gu Huizi was pleased by her and kissed the corner of her lips. "Go to sleep." Suwon hugged Gu Huizi affectionately and fell asleep on his arm. In a daze, she murmured, "Not only do you want to be in the top 10, but it is best to be the top scorer in high school so that you can slap them in the face. Drinking these days, don't drink the wine in vain." "Yes, what the lady said is true." Gu Huizi patted her back gently. "I will give you a royal commission." Suwon raised the corners of her lips in her sleep, as if she had had a sweet dream. Early the next morning, Gu Huizi received the notice and entered the palace as a nujinshi. The author has something to say. The normal spring examination is in February, the results are released in March, the palace examination is on the 21st of April, and the results are announced on the 25th. Since it's Enk, Ruan Bao's writing is fictitious, and the time is set privately. You can adjust it yourself. See you tomorrow. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Bao. Chapter 338. Xiao Chuanlu was one of the top 10 new scholars and was summoned by the emperor alone. The final rankings in the Earth Palace examination were only officially determined after Xiao Chuanlu, and were filled in the big and small gold lists. The small gold list is kept in the big palace. The big golden list was filled with Emperor's treasure jade seals. On the 5th day of the Lunar New Year, it was hung outside the left gate of Chang'an to inform the world and make Xian envoys aware of it. Because of the illusion of carp leaping over the Dragon Gate, the left gate of Chang'an was called the Dragon Gate, so the great gold list was posted here. When Gu Huizi arrived at the palace gate, the other 9 people had already arrived and entered the palace with the chamberlain. Anyone who participates in the palace examination, no one dares to look down upon Xiao Chuanlu. If there are no locals in Xiao Chuanlu, the ranking will be reduced to the last place in the top 3. Therefore, some people say, on the day when he was passed on, there would be no jinshi. On the day of Xiao Chuanlu, no one dares to miss it. Everyone was silent, and there were many who were nervous. However, when taking part in the palace examination, the emperor personally came to the examination room to preside over it. It was intended to highlight the status of the supreme ruler as the Grand Master of the world and the status of the Chinese as the disciple of the emperor. They had already seen it. Emperor, the tension is much lessened than the first time. This time is strange because everyone knows Gu Huizi's identity. The emperor was once his younger brother, and now he recognizes his ancestor and returns to the clan, but the relationship is still deep. It is said that his biological sister came to the palace to accompany the young emperor. How can ordinary people enjoy this kind of honor? Even the important officials in the court can only envy him. While everyone was doubting his ranking, they were also wondering whether to curry favor with him or not, and there was nothing wrong with making friends with him. But when the first person, Wang Suekin, was summoned into the Kinzen Hall and came out, his face was pale, cold sweat broke out on his forehead, all those messy thoughts were thrown out of the sky, and his eyes looking at Gu Huizi were full of sympathy. The chamberlain announced, "Gu Hui has an audience." Gu Huizi pursed his lips and entered under the attention of everyone. Someone who was familiar with Wang Suekin asked in a low voice, "What's wrong?" "The regent and the chief minister of the cabinet are here to assist." Wang Suekin showed a meaningful expression for everyone to appreciate. Everyone's expressions changed. Even though Gu Huizi had a close relationship with the young emperor, he had just returned to the palace not long ago, and he was still young. All government affairs had to go through the hands of the cabinet and the regent, so he had no say at all. The regent is ruthless and disowns his relatives. The chief minister of the cabinet is extremely upright. He comes from a poor family and pays attention to true talents and learning. It is simply a daydream for the little emperor to win over these two people and open a back door for Gu Huizi to seek personal gain. Gu Huizi's success in Huiwen is probably due to his true talent and practical learning. Since he has real ability, it is no problem to be in the top 10 in the imperial examination. Those who originally doubted Gu Huizi's success in winning Zhonghuiyuan have all given up their suspicions. Gu Huizi didn't know what everyone was thinking. After entering the Qinzhen Hall, he saw Jing Yun sitting in the dragon chair. After nearly a year of hard work, he had the aura of a superior. He could control his emotions well, but his eyes were particularly bright. Bright, you can tell he is in a good mood. On the side were Ji Xian and Xiaofu. Both of them knew his identity, and both were idle. Su Xiaofu followed the rules and asked a few questions. Seeing Gu Huizi's fluent answers, which were very exciting, he couldn't help but clapped his hands and said, "How do you feel about the imperial examination?" "Bullying people," Gu Huizi said calmly, "they think that my relationship with the emperor has just won the Huiwen, and today I won the top 10 again. Now that I see you two here, no matter how powerful I am, I will be short-term time can't reach your level of relationship. The emperor has no right to speak. It's me who relies on my true talents. When my identity is exposed, they will think that it is true. I used the back door." Su Xiaofu laughed dumbly. "Let's just say it. I was the one who took the back door. It will be difficult for others to reach my position throughout their lives." Gu Huizi was very calm. "You are quite shameless," Su Xiaoxu asked. "Do you want to post the top 10 articles? There is no need to do anything unnecessary. Even if my articles are outstanding, they still assume that I know the test questions in advance. I have been immersed in officialdom for many years, which is unfair to the candidates. I have gained benefits, but I only have to bear a few infamy." Gu Huizi was very impressed. "Kai, participating in the imperial examination is just to facilitate my trip." Su Xiaofu coughed a few times and knew the meaning of Gu Hui's words. He was a very transparent person. "The goal is clear and we work step by step." "How is Zhao's health?" The regent frowned and said quietly, "Be careful these days." Gu Huizi said seriously, "Yes, the government affairs in the palace bother my father to worry a lot." "Regent. He also has a wife to accompany him." Gu Huizi's situation was indeed such that he couldn't be involved in government affairs. He looked at Su Xiaofu in disdain. Su Xiaofu turned away and coughed muffledly. The old man was seriously ill and could not work hard. "Regent." He pinched his eyebrows and said, "Okay, you stay with Zhao during this period." Looking at Gu Huizi was annoying. He waved his hand, "Get out." Gu Huizi bowed to the clouds and flowing water, and then retreated. When people outside saw Gu Huizi coming out, they wanted to ask a few questions, but they were nudged by their classmates with their elbows to tell him to stop talking. Wang Suekin, who was on the side, saw Gu Huizi leaving, hesitantly glanced at the inner hall, hesitated again and caught up with him. "Can we go out now?" Gu Huizi said calmly, "The summons is over, you can stay or go as you like." Wang Suekin asked dryly, "Brother Gu, will the selection be based on ranking order this time, or will young and outstanding scholars be selected from the second and third grades?" Gu Huizi paused, as usual. Wang Suekin breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't dare to think that if he ranked among the top 3, he would be able to serve as a concubine and stay in the Hanlin Academy. Then he was stunned, and Gu Huizi told him clearly that this was not a taboo at all. "Is there anyone in his court?" Wang Suekin was ashamed. One look at Gu Huizi, who was as beautiful as an orchid and a jade tree, and he always felt that his villain's heart was like a gentleman's. Gu Huizi went back home alone. There was a deck chair placed under a peach tree in the yard. Suwan lay on it with a book covering her face, taking a nap in the warm sun. He was startled for a moment, then walked over, and the wind blew the petals and fell on her dress and hair. Gu Huizi touched her hand and it was warm, not cold. Then he touched her round belly. The child seemed to sense it, and immediately punched and kicked him, making a big fuss in the palace. He could obviously tell which bulging bag was caused by his fists and which bag was kicked by his feet. Suwan took away his hand with her soft hand and said dissatisfiedly, "It just stopped, and it rebelled again when you came. I was afraid that it would stretch its belly." She lifted up her shorts, revealing her fair and huge belly. Her navel was flattened, shining in the sun, and her skin was very thin. "Nonsense." Gu Huizi covered his belly with his clothes and said warmly, "It's windy outside, why don't you cover yourself with a thin blanket?" "It's hot." Suwan raised a leg and stepped on his leg. "My leg is sore, give me a squeeze." Gu Huizi sat on the chair and squeezed her legs skillfully. Suwan sighed and said, "Mom said that if you win the first prize, you will be able to return to your hometown in fine clothes and tell the news to your ancestors." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Nongmen Bao. Chapter 339. You are about to give birth and it is not convenient for you to return to your hometown. If you want to inform your ancestors, let me offer you a stick of incense for me. Gu Huizi brushed the peach petals from her hair, her white cheeks were blushing from the sun, and her eyebrows were gentle. Are you Shui, sleeping softly in the recliner, with a petite and slender figure, and only one belly during the entire pregnancy? Do your feet cramp during the day? Something has happened in the past few days. The position of the thigh is not painful when lying still, but it will throb after walking for a while. Suwan grabbed a small piece of clothing lying on the floor and covered it on her belly. She looked down and saw that it was bigger than a palm. Little red clothes, do you think it's a boy or a girl? The sunlight cast a layer of warm light on his cold eyes, and he said with a smile on his lips, "Girl. He's so naughty, maybe he's a boy." Suwan held his finger and played with it. "Have you thought of a name?" "Lingzi. You don't have the wings of a colorful phoenix in your body, but you have a clear mind in your heart." Suwan chuckled, "It means that the hearts are connected." "It's so vulgar. Why isn't it the meaning of everything goes as you wish, the two love each other, and you can only believe in a little bit of synergy, and you can be sincere to the god of the sea? It means nimbleness, wisdom, and agility." Gu Huizi glanced at her and said warmly, "It is both vulgar and elegant. If you can be more tacky, just call it Gu Jiao Jiao." Suwan complained. "You can call me Jiao Jiao by my nickname." You." Suwan couldn't bear it and kicked him directly. "Be gentle, don't get hurt." Gu Huizi didn't hide, kicked her, grabbed her feet, and said sternly, "Gu Huiao. Huiao." Suwan tasted it carefully, then curled her lips and said, "That's a good name." She asked enthusiastically, "Where's the boy's name?" Gu Huizi fell into silence. Suwan's smile faded. "Didn't you take it?" Gu Huizi really didn't take it? Suwan slumped on the recliner and touched her belly. She was really worried about the child, fearing that her father would dislike her if she gave birth to a baby. Gu Huizi tried to save his image as a loving father. Lu Yuanzi said it's a girl. Suwan rolled her eyes, not believing a single punctuation mark from him. Mom said that in the first 3 months, you secretly started to collect beads and flowers, beautiful hairbands, small bracelets, and necklaces. The cloths you bought were all brightly colored, pink, and bright yellow. Will you know your gender at that time? And the pulse count is inaccurate. This is also undesirable, Suwon accused him, boys and girls are your children, so you can't be too partial. Gu Huizi touched his nose, if it is a boy, I will naturally love him. He can wear these clothes. I haven't given him a name now because I take him too seriously and must be cautious. He was silent and said quietly, my name is Gu Shenzi. Take it seriously. Suwon was too lazy to pay attention to him. Gu Huizi, apart from going to court every day, would go back to his house to accompany Suwon. As the day she planned to give birth approached, people in the house were always on standby, and the 2 stable women and 2 female doctors who had been invited had already moved into Gu's house. The due date has passed, but it still hasn't started, but the ceremony of passing on the body has come. Gu Huizi arrived outside Donghua Gate on the 4th watch. All the tributes, all wearing official uniforms and crowns with 3 branches and 9 leaves, were waiting for the door to open. As the morning bell rang, the thick ink-like sky seemed to open a gap, and dazzling white light seeped out, illuminating the entire sleeping forbidden palace. He looked up at the palace illuminated by golden light, like a giant dragon circling and looking down, with majestic momentum. This place is a place that thousands of students who study hard in the cold window yearn for. He can't remember the state of mind when he first stepped into the palace wall and stood in the Hall of Supreme Harmony in the morning. He was probably as excited and passionate as them. The Donghua Gate slowly opened, Gu Huizi closed his eyes and followed the officials filing in, heading to the Hall of Supreme Harmony. All the tributes, princes, and ministers entered the Hall of Supreme Harmony together, and lined up on the left and right. Stand and listen attentively to the announcement of the names and rankings of those who have passed the Jinshi examination. The official of Honglu Temple of the Ministry of Rites set up a yellow case next to the inner east of Taehe, and the cabinet bachelor held a yellow list and placed it on top of the yellow case. After everything was ready, he went to Kinzen Hall to invite the emperor to wear formal clothes and go to the Hall of Supreme Harmony to ascend his throne. After the princes, ministers, and the tributes knelt down and kowtowed 3 times, the officials of Honglu Temple began to announce the Ji. On the 5th day of the 3rd month of the Xingke year, we will test the tributes from all over the world. The first one will be awarded the title of Jinshi, and the second one will be awarded the title of Jinshi. He was born as a Jinshi, and the third person was given the same background as a Jinshi. Next, it's time to roll call. The Gongshi held their breaths, their hearts beating violently, and their eyes all glanced at Gu Huizi. Except for the top 10 Gongshi, the others all thought that there was something shady about this Enk, and the 3 tripod armor Gu Huizi definitely ranks among them. Wang Suekin, however, was very worried. If Gu Huizi had not entered Sandingjia with his thigh, he might have aroused ridicule. Gu Huizi was very calm. His ranking didn't matter to him, as long as he was a Jinshi. Su Hui, the chief minister of the cabinet, dragging his sick body, held the gold medal and called out, Gu Huizi is the first. As expected, everyone still felt unhappy. In the blink of an eye, what if I got the top prize in the exam? It's not like you have to go through qualifications with them, and if you want to climb to a high position, it can take as short as 3 years or as long as 10 years. Without real talent and learning, even if he has excellent golden thighs, other people are not vegetarians and will never let Gu Huizi climb up quickly. The eyes of the civil and military officials were also a little subtle. There was already a related household in the court who was stuffed into the cabinet by the regent. Now that another well-connected person has been admitted, how does the little emperor plan to reuse him? Gu Huizi calmly walked out of the procession and knelt down on the left side of the royal road under the guidance of the Honglu Temple officials. Su Hui continued the roll call, first, second, Wang Suekin. Wang Suekin came out of the procession excitedly and knelt on the right side of the royal road. The top 3 will be called 3 times, while the second and third place players will only be called once and do not need to stand out. After the roll call was completed, the music Qing Ping Zhang was played in the hall, and Gu Huizi led the Jinchi to thank the emperor for his kindness. The emperor directly gave the number 1 scholar the title of editor, and the number 2 scholar and the third flower were the editors. He also gave special permission to leave the palace from the Meridian Gate and go to the left gate of Chang'an to view the gold list. Jing Yun wanted to congratulate his eldest brother, but now was not the time, so he followed his chamberlain back to Qinzhen Hall. Gu Huizi put on his number 1 scholar robe and joined Wang Suiqan, who was second in the list, and Zhou Lang, who was the most beautiful woman. The Minister of Rites held the golden list and presented it on a cloud disk. Together they went out of Tahi Gate and Meridian Gate to Chang'an Gate to post the list. At this time, the sun was already high in the sky, and the common people stood in the streets, wanting to see the handsome man. Suwan was thinking about Gu Hui being the number 1 winner, but she didn't know what to do. She booked a private room in a restaurant on Chang'an Street early so that she wouldn't have to be squeezed by the people on the street. It's coming. It's coming. The number 1 scholar is here. This number 1 scholar is so young. Zhailan Yushu, Long Jiang's grace and his demeanor are really worthy of this title. There was a roar of people, and Suwan clearly heard everyone praising the champion. She lay down at the window and looked outside. I saw Gu Huizi wearing a golden flower and black gauze hat, a red robe, and a horse with a golden saddle and red mane. The horse's hooves stepped on the scattered apricot flowers on the street and walked slowly towards her. Suwan's breath was choked. He seemed to be aware of it, and looked across the crowd calmly, meeting her eyes. Suwan suddenly shortened her body and hugged her belly with both hands. "Mom, my water has broken, my water has broken. I'm going to give birth." The author has something to say. Babies, regarding the process of the Chuanlu ceremony, please check Baidu Encyclopedia for information. See you tomorrow, good night. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 340. Gu's mother stood at another window and looked out. When she heard Suwan's words, she was startled and hurriedly came over to support Suwan. "Quick! Go back quickly." After saying that, she shouted out the door, "Mon, hurry up and prepare the car, Wan is going to give birth." "Wait," Suwan shouted, "Mon, come back." Mon opened the door and came in. "Mother, Chi Wu is going to prepare the carriage." "What are your orders? The birth is not so fast. Don't tell Huizi about it. Don't delay his business." Suwan endured the pain of labor. It would take several hours for her first pregnancy. After the number 1 scholar paraded through the streets, he had to lead fellow Jinchi scholars to the Ministry of Rites to attend the Qianglan banquet to celebrate the Jinchi's admission. After the banquet, Zhuangyuan Lang led everyone to the Confucius temple to pay homage to Confucius, the most holy teacher, and then went to the Imperial College to erect a stele and put the name of the new Jinchi on the stele. If he knew that she was giving birth, he would definitely put aside these red tapes and return home to accompany her. "I'm just afraid that it will give people a reason to talk." Suwan only felt the heat flowing downwards. Fortunately, the labor pains were not strong and the intervals were slightly longer, so she hurried downstairs and went to the back door. The front door was crowded and many people were blocked, so they had to leave through the back door, and the carriage had to go around an extra street. Gu's mother saw her gasping in pain, with a forbearing look on her face, and said anxiously, "Does it hurt? If you feel uncomfortable, just lean on my mother. I can bear it." Suwan smiled, not knowing how long the labor would last. "If it goes well, it will come out in 2 or 3 hours. If it doesn't go well." Mother Gu looked at her petite little ball, curled up on the cushioned carriage floor, her face turned pale with pain, and she was so anxious. "Why don't we call Huizi back? He has already been a high official. It doesn't matter if the wife is the top scholar or not, and Jingyun won't take his ranking back. It doesn't matter. Although Huizi is the elder of Ziyuch, he studied hard since he was a child, and he won the first prize in the exam. The emperor gave him the honor of riding a horse and parading through the streets. This is only once in his life. It is the honor that all students yearn for. Suwon reluctantly, after the wave of labor pain passed, he let out a long breath. I estimate that the child will not come out for 3 or 4 hours. By the time he returns home from the end, the child should be born. When he returns home, he will stand outside and wait, so anxious. She looked at Mother Goo's distressed look on her face and held her hand. Mom, he can't give birth to me when he comes back. She frowned, her stomach contracted hard and felt very uncomfortable. It's ugly to give birth to a baby. I don't want him to see it. You kid. The more magnanimous she is, the more distressed Mother Goo becomes. As a woman, I always want a man by my side when giving birth. Mom, please let me lean on you. Suwon put her head next to Goo's mother's legs where she was sitting cross-legged, and grabbed her arm, counting the duration of the labor pains in her mind and the length of time between the 2 labor pains. Nearly an hour later, the carriage arrived at the mansion. Hu and Qingyuan had already received the news and were waiting at the door of the house. Goo's mother shouted out of the carriage, Qingyuan, take Wan back to the house. Qingyuan got on the carriage, held Suwon firmly as he got out of the carriage, and ran straight to the main courtyard. Po Wen and the female doctor were waiting in the room. When they saw Qingyuan carrying someone in his arms, they quickly said, quick, put him on the bed. Suwon was lying on the bed, the contractions were becoming more and more intensive, and the pain was becoming more and more unbearable. Po Wen washed her hands, took off her pants, took out a thin wooden stick, put it in Suwon's mouth and bit it. Don't cry out that it hurts, don't use force, save your strength and wait until the baby comes out soon. Work harder. Suwon nodded, took the wooden stick away, and asked the female doctor on the side, I taught you the measures to deal with emergencies, have you all remembered them? The female doctor was worried. Suwon had chosen the 2 of them since she was diagnosed with pregnancy, and taught them every day how to deal with the abnormal fetal position of the child. How to deal with situations such as retained placenta, or half separation of the placenta causing massive bleeding, uterine atony, birth canal tear, massive bleeding, etc. This knowledge was simply unheard of. They studied it seriously, knowing very well that if they mastered it, they would benefit immensely. But after all, it was just talk on paper before. Even if Suwon personally delivered babies to women and taught them on the spot in order to let them learn from the experience, they also practiced it in person if the circumstances allowed. But at that time, Suwon was personally giving guidance, and this time it was their appearance, so they would inevitably be nervous. Remember, the female doctor clenched her fingers and glanced at a series of life-saving tools placed on the table to prevent emergencies. Suwon looked away and put her hands on her tailbone, which hurt the child. She had taken good care of her body during pregnancy, and no unexpected situation would happen to her. Suwon didn't want to stay up too long, so she controlled her breathing and started to try harder. Young madam, please let go of your hand and let me check you. Po Wen Po comforted Suwon and whispered slowly, if you have good conditions, you might be born in 2 or 3 hours soon. I heard someone say that a woman who was pregnant with Liojia only spent 2 hours from the moment she was born. She bent Suwon's legs, and the child rushed out instantly. Po Wen was frightened. The female doctor also looked confused. That's it? Several people were caught off guard. Suwon had made them all very nervous, waiting for a protracted battle, but the child came out before it even started. They reacted quickly and scrambled to deal with it. Po Wen picked up the child with red skin. A female doctor cuts the umbilical cord with scissors. Another female doctor mixed hot water and spread out the swaddling clothes. Several people were busy driving. Outside the door, Gu's mother paced back and forth, then leaned on the door panel to listen to what was going on inside, but there was no sound at all. When she gave birth to her first child, she cried and howled in pain. Immediately, she felt even more sorry for Suwon. She must have been afraid that they would worry, so she held back from crying out in pain. If she didn't give birth after waiting another hour, she would ask Moun to call Gu Huizi back. Thinking of Suwon's thin arms and legs, Gu's mother prepared to go to the ancestral hall to offer a stick of incense to her ancestors. Qingyuan, stay guard at the door. If anything happens, tell me as soon as possible, Gu's mother told Mrs. Hu, go to the kitchen and steam 2 poached eggs. Keep them warm on the stove. You will eat them after giving birth. Wow! The baby's loud cry echoed in everyone's ears. The air seemed stagnant. Mother Gu didn't even react. Did the child cry just now? Hu and Qingyuan nodded dully, and their cries were very lively. She's given birth? She's just given birth. Gu's mother's expression was blank, but she reacted in a flash, with excitement on her face. Wan has given birth. It's good to have given birth. You will suffer less. The closed door opened, and Po Wen came out holding a swaddled baby, with a smile on her face. Congratulations, madam, the young madam has given birth to a daughter with a rich daughter.